My high school bully became my patient. He didn't recognize me until I mentioned the scar on his hand. The name on the patient chart made my stomach drop. Michael Donovan. I hadn't heard it in 15 years, but some names you never forget. I considered asking another doctor to take the case. Our small town hospital had 3 neurologists on duty, but after reading his symptoms, I knew I was his best option. Persistent headaches, vision changes, tremors in his left hand. My specialty. When I entered the exam room, he looked smaller than I remembered. The star Cortigrach who'd made my sophomore year a living hell was now just another middle-aged man in a paper gown, anxiously rubbing a thin white scar across his right knuckles. I'm Dr. Sarah Chen, I said, extending my hand professionally. I understand you've been experiencing headaches and vision problems. He didn't recognize me. Why would he? In high school, I was invisible except when I was a target, the awkward scholarship student with thrifts, sore clothes, and perfect test scores. Chen the Brain, they called me, led by Michael and his friends. Now I wore designer glasses instead of the tea-prepared ones he'd knocked off my face. My hair fell in styled layers rather than the practical tinges he'd once pulled so hard it left a bald spot. 15 years of confidence and accomplishment had transformed me more than any physical change. While examining him, I noticed his hands trembling worse than the chart indicated. His medical history mentioned the sports injury at 17, the same year he'd slammed his fist into a locker beside my head when I refused to let him copy my chemistry final. This scar on your hand, I said, examining it professionally. Does it ever give you trouble? No, he replied, re-em teenage fight. Cut my knuckle on a locker? I nodded, continuing my examination. The symptoms were concerning. The MRI he'd had at another hospital showed a small mass operable but requiring skilled hands and precision. My hands will need to do additional imaging, but based on what I am seeing, you are going to need surgery, I explained, detailing the procedure and recovery process. Am I going to be okay? His voice cracked, revealing the fear beneath his still handsome exterior. That's when I made my decision, not about his treatment, which was never in question, but about whether to reveal our past. Michael, do you remember Sarah Chen from Westlake High? His brow furrowed, then his eyes widened in slow recognition. What, you are Chen the Brain? Dr. Chen now, I corrected gently. Board-certified neurologist and coincidentally the surgeon who's going to remove the mass pressing on your cerebellum. His face flushed deep red as 15-year-old memories collided with his current reality. I don't know what to say. I was horrible to you. You were, I agreed, maintaining my professional tone. But that has nothing to do with your treatment. I took an oath to provide the best care possible to every patient, regardless of our history. He stared at his hands. You could refuse to treat me, I would understand. But I am the best at this particular procedure, and your health is what matters now. I handed him the consent forms. Surgery is scheduled for Thursday. My team is excellent and your prognosis is good. As I turned to leave, he called after me. Why tell me at all? You could have operated without me ever knowing. I considered this for a moment. Because your recovery requires trust in your surgeon, and trust requires truth even when it's uncomfortable. 3 days later, I removed a benign tumor from Michael Donovan's brain in a 4-hour procedure. 6 weeks after that, he brought his wife and children to my office for his final follow-up. The tremors were gone, the headaches resolved. Excellent. As they prepared to leave, his wife stepped out with the children. Michael lingered, clearly wanting to say something. You could have held a grudge, she finally managed. Most people would have. I looked at his steady hands, the same hands that had once pushed me down a flight of stairs. Grudges make poor surgical tools, I replied. He nodded, understanding the layers in my response. Sometimes the most powerful thing isn't getting revenge or holding on to anger, simply becoming exactly who you were meant to be, and letting that speak for itself.